Now, what's it doing? Oh, we got somebody. Give that a try again, Renee. Yep. Well, I deleted the other meeting and I just created a brand new one and it used my default code, which is what it was my ignorance. I didn't realize it was creating a new code. I created a string of 6 meetings and for some reason it created a new code for each one instead of using my default. How's it going, Dave?
All right.
So Dave just joined, so I'm thinking we're in business, but yeah, Renee couldn't get on. He called me and said, hey, this low rent meeting's not working.
Yeah, I had that trouble for a minute, and then I went back to the email and copied and pasted the link again, and it showed up this time. So
Yay.
I don't know if it was just dumb luck or what. It's usually my case.
Wow. So Renee says he still can't get in. So you clicked on the link in the email, and so Dave.
Well, I copied and pasted
the
yeah. And then it opened this up the second time.
Yeah. He said he copied and pasted the link. Well, the whole link, there's a link that just starts the meeting. It enters the password and the ID automatically. It's in the email. Here comes. See if that gets you there. All right, we're
There's Terry Olson at the end of the chimney.
Yeah, I see him. Yeah, he's got the tunnel going.
Yeah, surprising what you can do with a few beer cans.
Oh. Oh, there's Renee. It's working.
Now it's okay. Yeah, that works. Oh, geez.
Beer. I don't know. Well, that's I guess that's gonna be trouble. I guess we'll see what happens.
I'm gonna hang up and see if my audio works.
Yeah, I can hear you. Awesome. Well, we had a little technical difficulties. My meeting had
my audio work.
Had the wrong or whatever meeting number for a while. So I don't know.
Audio working?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right. I'm going to go grab a glass of water. I shall return. Feel free to talk to Terry and ask him why he lives in a beer can.
Yeah. Maybe it's safer in there.
I'm going to have to buy a tripod one of these days so I can stack it up in my desk is a mess, and it's hard to find space to put anything. Yeah. So I use old beer cans and stuff like that to get it supported.
Oh.
Okay.
Hi, Dave.
Good morning, Terry. Or afternoon.
How are you?
Okay.
Good. Is it raining up there yet?
We had a little rain last night, so it cleared the air well enough. I was able to sleep with the windows open again.
Oh,
so
the luxury.
Finally got a good night's sleep after a week and a half.
Yeah, no
really.
kidding. Wow. Let me see. I wonder if we're still having people with trouble. So
I got an email from John Ferguson. He said he wouldn't be able to attend today.
Oh, okay.
So if you're
Still waiting for it to clear out there.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, we're lucky, man. Kirkland, it's clear. I went for a walk and just, inhaled. It was great.
Yeah, breathing is good, actually. Is it?
I can breathe.
I can breathe. Wow. Well, maybe let's see. I don't know if there's anything else I can do to help folks that might be trying to join.
Maybe just post an email and say the best way is to just click on the link.
There you go.
Yeah, interesting.
I'll do that real quick here.
Yeah, boy.
It's sad that
Fine, it won't let you.
that I didn't know what I was doing.
Hi, Renan.
Hi.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Here I am. Let's see. Hopefully we got the mic on.
Did you join by clicking the link?
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, see. Yeah, I opened the Zoom portal and put in the meeting ID, and it wouldn't recognize the password. So.
Hi, Siddhartha.
Yeah, I just clicked the last month's thing
Click
and
the
it
link.
brought me in fine.
Right.
You know the one. Oh, you don't need a pass. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hang on. I have no idea. We'll have to ask Dana. Dana?
Yes.
So Siddhartha is on the phone and he can't get through with the password that was sent, those digits, those numbers.
Right. He needs to just click on the link in the email.
Click on the link in the email.
Yeah, or you may have to copy and paste it into the
Right.
into the browser, but the link is working. For some reason, the
The link
number
is
and passcode don't work.
But the number and passcode don't work.
Oh, I see. Okay, then I'll have to do this on my computer rather than on my.
No, not necessarily. You should be able to open the link in the email on the browser on your iPhone.
Okay, all right, then we do that.
Okay.
All right. Well, I sent out an email again saying use the link. So I guess that's the best. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Hopefully other people will call us. They have trouble. Sorry. I got fancy. I created a string of 6 meetings and, regular reoccurring, thinking that was going to be so nice. And then I hadn't paid attention because it said, do you want to use your your personal ID, which is that 8080 number,
Right.
And now when I looked at it, it created a new meeting ID for each meeting is what happened.
Oh.
So that blew it out anyway. And for some reason, it didn't tell me that in the invite. So that's weird, but the link worked. So I don't even know what meeting ID we're on right now, but apparently the link is working, so we're going. But yeah.
Great.
Welcome. Yeah. I don't know. Anybody want to talk about anything? Guess we'll give Siddhartha a minute. And,
yeah, I was going to wait for some people to come online.
Yeah, definitely. So, so Terry, now what happens if you remove the beer can from your camera?
I did.
Oh, no. So do you have dancing girls that you're trying to hide, or are you in a...
No, they all moved out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we had quite a collection of girls around here for a while, but they all grew up and got married and stuff. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there you go. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Man, that's very good. Well, you're very shiny. I do like it. I'm going to call it the Terry horn. So, you're kind of, you got.
Yeah, it's Terry's man cave.
Well, it looks like, it looks like you're you have a Tractrix horn. See, you're the speaker. You're in a waveguide. So as a
Yeah.
waveguide lover, I'm all over it. Oh, here comes a call. It's Howard.
Thanks,
There we
Dana, for sending me the link.
Hey, there he
Hey.
is.
Oh,
Hey,
he
Howard.
says, how come I can't get in? Huh?
They don't
Well,
work.
I guess all the good-looking guys are here now. We can start the
You have
meeting.
to use the link that's in the email. For some reason, the passcode is dorked. But whatever is in the link at the top, I sent the email out again just now. And so if you just copy and paste that link into your browser, and then that's working for everybody.
Well, at least for 7 of us,
I
or
just
6.
Yeah. And it's the same link that was in the first email. I just moved it to the top of the email so it's easy to find. Okay. Well,
Afternoon, Renee.
yeah, give me a call back if it doesn't work. Yeah, but yes, so far everybody else, well, I mean, we've only had, I think it's cut the attendance in half. People are having trouble. But yeah, use the link and hopefully that will work. Okay. All right, bye.
Can you
Howard,
hear me,
time.
Renee? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay.
You are 5 by 5 or whatever they used to say.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Well, I'm not 10 by 10. That would be overweight.
Well, some of us are getting there.
No, no, you're not 10 by 10. No.
6 by 6, maybe.
Well, since we got some people, I'll do some show and tell.
Okay.
Renee, is that really your workshop, or is that a
Yes,
picture?
that's actually an out of date. It's a picture of my workshop, slightly out of date. It's my background for my green screen.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, but yeah, I think on one of the earlier meetings I described the instrumentation.
Right.
I need to take an up-to-date picture. There's more stuff there now.
How many workshops do you have?
A couple. Well, I have the garage one, but that's accumulating unfinished and excess projects at this point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those.
When the time is right, I want to build a headphone amplifier. And so if anybody has any thoughts, like what the power supply voltage should be and what that sort of thing, be very interested.
You're talking about a tube headphone amplifier?
Solid
no.
state.
Solid
Oh,
state.
yeah.
Oh, well, the power supply voltage should be whatever you've got handy for the chip you're using or whatever.
I got an idea for a solid state headphone amp. I designed one with 1 op amp and 1 MOSFET. And
Right. Yep. Single-ended MOSFET output, right?
130 dB signal to noise ratio. So there you go.
Really?
Would you
Yep.
would you be willing to share the design with me?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can send you yep, I will send you a schematic and you can see if,
Hey, Gary.
and it'll
Perfect.
keep, it's class A, so, it'll keep you warm in the winter. But yeah,
No, I've got some signal processing ideas that I want to play with, but I need to build an amp to make it work.
oh yeah. Oh,
Hey,
that's fun.
Dana,
Yes.
if I built one of your designs, or could I call it the Olson headphone amplifier after me?
Absolutely. Yep. But well, yeah, I'll show you it. I have one channel. Well, I've shown it before, but it sits here on my shelf. You can, let's see. Oh, here we go.
Oh, wow.
But so it's not as complicated as it looks. I just used this white proto board to stick the parts on. And so it just has the one op amp, a little 8-pin op amp. And then it's got a MOSFET here on this heatsink and a couple of resistors to,
Okay.
yeah, the
Good.
so real simple. Yeah, what's it got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 parts. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, those proto boards are really handy,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
especially especially if you're as indecisive as I am.
Right. And so you could just swap stuff in and out and listen to it. And
Yeah.
so I put that schematic into LT Spice, and then I was sitting there optimizing it. And I was spending a bunch of time trying to make 5 watts or something. And then it occurred to me, you know, it's at like about 150 milliwatts. It had this fantastic signal to noise ratio. It was incredible.
That's
But,
what I'm looking for.
yeah. So I'll show the other thing while I'm talking. So this is this arrived from oh, I got overridden by Howard. Hey, Howard.
Howard just arrived.
You got to talk the loudest to be the guy that has the how come I'm not showing up? I don't know. But anyway, oh, you see me? It's funny, I don't. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, so this is my Volt 3-inch mid-range that showed up from England. So as you can see, it has a magnet on it like you'd put on an 18-inch woofer, so it weighs in about 18 pounds. And then it's got this pretty waveguide on it. So that dome is actually 3 inches and that waveguide's about 6 or so. Yeah. And so that's for the project Tim was talking about. And let's see, I guess I'll just, while I'm at it, I'll just go ahead and show the stuff I was going to show.
Yeah.
What frequency range does that handle?
Well, that's a great question. Let's see. So we will, if I share my screen, I can show you the frequency response. There we go. Woofer, all I got to do is go over here. So you're hopefully looking at. There we go. I took control of the mute. Here we go. Docs, one of these should be, there it is. There we go. Can you see a frequency response chart?
Yep.
Fantastic. So there you go. So this was a measurement I took of it just the other day. So it goes pretty nicely from like 400 hertz to 5 kilohertz. It's got a little, let's see here. Not sure who's got the funny sounds. Oh, I see Gary. Huh. Okay, anyway. Now, how do I scroll this thing? Oh, maybe that'll work. There we go. So, yeah, there's the impulse response. And did I do anything else? Oh, and this was the Mundorf tweeter. So I did a frequency response of the little Mundorf tweeter I got last month, the air motion transformer. And so, yeah, so the things to notice, this is the distortion. And so it's down there at 0.1% or 0.2% over a lot of its range on that Mundorf tweeter, a relatively flat response. And then this was the same tweeter when I put it in my waveguide, so it got a little boost in the low end, not much. And the distortion actually dropped a little bit. So that was unique in that the distortion dropped and the gain went up a little bit.
Well, isn't that because it's a percentage distortion?
Maybe that's it. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Howard. That had not occurred to me. It wasn't. Yeah, it's because it's a percentage. I love it. So
Did you end up mounting them in any kind of a baffle?
no, I didn't because it was too smoky in my garage. So today
Okay.
I'll probably go out there and play as it's no longer smoky. But so this is just the driver with no baffle on it. So there's probably some effect because it doesn't have a nice flat baffle. It's got its waveguide, but at the extremes, I'm thinking it's probably, but it's not, you know, it's within a couple dB. This is 10 dB total, so not too terrible bad.
Yeah, and the tweeter is a dipole, so you could have gotten some of the same thing you would get with any other open back driver that wasn't mounted in a baffle, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, so the tweet. So this is the raw tweeter, and then the tweeter and the waveguide's pretty wide. So it's kind of acting as a baffle, but it actually, yeah, I don't know. It's still a little rough. It's hard to say. This was one measurement. I think maybe the mic was 6 inches away. So not the definitive answers, but anyway. But it was mostly I was interested to see if the distortion was low, and sure enough, it was very low for the mid range as well. So that's kind of what you're looking for when you spend, you know, $600 on a mid range.
What did you use to make these measurements?
So I used Arta, ARTA, the software, and then I've got a measurement mic and sound card, and that's about it. Yeah.
And Arta, you can get a demo version for free. That it doesn't let you save your jobs within the program, but you can copy and paste them into a word processing document or somewhere else.
Yeah, I can. Let's see.
But you finally got the paid for one, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I mean, I figured that. Let's see. Screen you're sharing. Stop share. I can show you Arta. Well, it's not a lot to look at, but so that's what Arta looks like. It lets you do a lot of different measurements. Let's see. Oh yeah, so like there's an impulse response I measured previously, and then you can go and pick a section of it. Well, sometimes you can pick a section of it. Oh, there it went. And then you can say, you have all these analyses you can do. Frequency response, burst decay. So if we did the frequency, so I've been doing this frequency response and distortion. So that's what we were looking at before.
And for those that haven't played with that before, it looks so wiggly because the ones that the manufacturers publish that you can, when you're buying a driver, they're really smoothed out. They all have the wiggles too, but they just get rid of them by putting a much broader smoothing on it.
Yeah. What's the other one I like? The burst decay. Yeah. I don't know if you can see the burst decay on your screen or not, but
Yes, can.
oh, good. But so yeah, basically any of the analyses you would want to do it, and it will do real time, like play white noise and do a spectrum, so all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty handy. And
Oh,
like
really?
Howard says it's,
That's
you know,
very clever.
it's free. So depending on which of these buttons, you know, this is the impulse response, and then it's got frequency responses and spectrum analysis. So that's kind of the modes, and then you can record and do different things. So yeah, it's very, very useful.
Would you send me a link to where you get that?
Yes, indeed, I will.
I'd really like to have that.
So let's see, am I back to not sharing? I think so. Cool.
And I think the simplest microphone are the USB type microphones. Right, Dana, the like Parts Express has one that's made for USB that you can just plug into your computer, but then you have to use the computer sound card and everything, right?
Yeah, so that works pretty well. I didn't go that route so I have a separate mic here, as you can see. Just about any microphone will work that you can hook into your sound card. This one I happen to buy. This is a JVC mic that came with an equalizer back in 1982. But yeah, I mean, for the kinds of stuff we do, almost any microphone is going to work for like designing crossovers. This mic's actually relatively flat, or you can buy a calibrated mic like Howard did from Parts Express. The difference, I guess all that to say, if you buy the USB mic, you don't get synchronization between the sound you send to the speaker with the microphone. So, so every time you make a measurement, the delay between the generated sound and the recorded sound is different because you have two different USB devices working. So that's why I didn't buy the USB mic. It works fine if you're just trying to EQ a room or something, but if you're trying to make measurements of individual drivers on a baffle and then have the time delay be the same when you measure each driver, so then you can design the phase of the crossover properly. Then what you really need is an analog mic fed into a sound card so that both the audio in and the audio out are coming from the same device. And so so if you're designing crossovers, I would not recommend the USB mic. But if you're just, you know, EQing a finished speaker or EQing a room or something like that, then that works great.
So Dana, could I
have Mike handy?
Can I jump in for a minute on the calibration mic? I found when I got one of those calibrated mics, there was really nothing special about the mic itself. It's just that it came with a calibration file in which it had been precisely measured, and then you load the calibration file into Arta, and so then it accounts for the frequency response aberrations of the microphone itself when it gives you your measurements. That's all it is.
Yeah, I think they're relatively flat. Because I bought one, actually. Howard has one, I bought one, and when I downloaded, I don't know what your experience was with the cal file, how big the deviations were in it. I think I found the calibration file for the microphone I bought, I thought they were relatively small, in the order of a dB or two.
Yeah, and not all over the place, just in a couple of spots. I wasn't mine somewhere like around 9K or something like that, I was thinking.
Yeah, so there might have been a couple dB dip, and it was relatively wide. And
your room is going to screw things up way more than the mic.
Oh yeah. I mean, but that's a good point, Gary. Yeah, and what I ended up doing was, I found the downside to the inexpensive mics where they had limited dynamic range. So they worked great until you put them 1 inch from the speaker and then tried to play it as loud as I typically played it, which was maybe a watt, maybe a half a watt or a watt. That overloaded those, like the Behringer or the Dayton Audio. So then you couldn't do a distortion measurement. with the microphone, 2 inches from the cone. And my JVC mic would do that all day, no problem. So I realized that when you spend more money on a mic, you get this, instead of it starting to distort at 110 dB, they go up to like 130 dB.
Wow.
But really close to the speaker, that doesn't sound that loud in the room because
No.
the microphone is only an inch from the speaker.
Right,
So
right.
you don't really even have to cover your ears at that point.
Yeah.
With the sweep, it's just really super loud right by the cone.
Right, but so for certain things, if you're trying, so what I'm trying to do is I want to measure just that driver, and I want to do a distortion measurement, and I don't want any of the room in there, and so I'll drive, a watt, like a typical comfortable listening level, and then I'll put the mic really close, and so that was the only downside. So what I did was then I used the I used either Howard's mic or the one I bought to do a sweep of a driver with both my old microphone and the Cal mic, and then I subtracted the two and made a new Cal file for my old microphone. So now I loaded that in, and so now I basically calibrated my 30-year-old JVC mic with its own Cal file, and so that flattened it out really good. So there you go. So you can always just borrow a mic from somebody and Cal any mic you happen to have. So I recommend that.
Great idea. What a great idea.
So just
Yeah, like with so Dayton basically has the USB mic and then this mic that requires a condenser mic that requires external sound card and a phantom power supply, and so that's what I ended up with was not the USB mic, and so I've got the little power supply which plugs into a wall wart, that and this Sound Blaster sound card, which does plug into the USB, but it stands alone, and it also has phono inputs and a bunch of different things, headphone output. And then I have a little Class D amplifier that came prepackaged, one of those little desktop type amplifiers. So you need a little setup of those three pieces to make a microphone that doesn't plug into the USB work.
yeah. Oh, there you go.
Is that the sound card?
Yeah. I see Baron's holding something up. If you make some noise, Baron, we'll be able to see you centered there. It looks like you've got
Make some noise, like describing my audio buddy.
There you go.
And it's got the phantom power and everything in it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I recently bought this one. This is the Mo2 M4, which is I went big and got the 4-channel, but same idea. This one I got because it has VU meters on it, so I thought that was kind of handy. And then it has these Nutric connectors, so you can either do the whatever these are, TRS or whatever they call them, or the other style. So yeah, so that, but yeah, it basically has the phantom power built into it. It's a USB audio interface, they call it. So you can buy these things for $60 up to a couple $100 depending on how fancy you want to get. So this one I got because it lets me do a little bit of mixing and monitoring with the headphones versus driving speakers out the outputs in the back. And so yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I downloaded some software. It's a VU meter.
Oh yeah.
Works pretty well.
Yep. But
So Dana, speaking of the audio interface, so this is the Sound Devices USB Pre 2, and that was from one of these meetings that I got turned on to. Renan was talking about the Sound Devices stuff, and Renan, I'm really thrilled that you turned me on to that because this thing has been golden. I gotten just wonderful results with it. So thank you.
nice. Yeah. Wow. Oh, Renan's on mute. I think I probably muted him, but
Yes, I can't hear Renan.
Oh, okay.
oh, there
Now,
we go. I got
Now
him.
we can.
yeah.
All right, there you go.
No, that's a very nice device you have there. That it does superb recordings, and it's great for what you're trying to do. Yeah, live recordings are wonderful to record with that unit.
It's really kind of a Swiss Army knife too. It's
Yeah.
just got every kind of input and output and transition and connection. It's a,
Yeah.
and it actually has LED-based VU meter that reads really nice. You see that kind of curved row across
Right.
the top, and it actually works well in real use.
Nice.
Cool. Oh my
So
God.
Dana, have you heard these speakers? Have you hooked them up or anything at all?
I just played, you know, I haven't hooked them up with a proper crossover.
Okay.
So I just played them individually, you know, just I played a little, the mid-range will handle, gosh, I don't know, probably 30 watts. So I could just hook it up full range and played it a little bit. And it sounded very clear. I was, in the past when I'd run just a, you know, a 2-inch or 3-inch dome, it would sound kind of nasally. But this one sounded very natural. I just played a little bit of a female vocal on it just to kind of get a sense. And yeah, so I think it's, well, I mean, I was expecting it to be pretty good.
So next is
That's why you bought it, right?
Yeah.
So next you're going to design the crossover.
Well, so I'm all wound around the axle trying to design the baffle. So I got what was I could show, let's see, do I have anything to show on baffle design? I was trying to well, I got a couple things I could show. Let me see here. If I do this, how do we get back? I'll share my screen real quick. So I was going into all the things I want to do in the future with this. So one of them was to do an equalization curve for it. So this is a response of an Arta 2-inch mid-range. And you can see it's about, you know, similar degree of flatness as the Volt mid-range. You know, it's flat, it's got a little this and that. And so I worked out some math to equalize this. Since I'm going to use a digital crossover, I can just load in a 2000 tap filter. So in the past, gosh, it's probably been a year or two ago, I did that, and this was how after compensation, this was the measured response of the Arta mid-range. So it lets you really make it perfect. So that was the first thing I was thinking of doing, but then I realized, well, I need to get it put in a baffle first before I bother with that. And then the other, let's see, was there, oh, there it was. So then I was looking at how to calculate baffle step or baffle response. So I was digging around in my stuff I did back in 2017. And so this was a math model of a dome tweeter where you break it up into little squares, and then you assign an audio output to each little square or circle as it's shown here, and then you can look at it at a distance and sum up based on the distance, you can say, oh, it's at this phase angle, and so you get this model of the response. But all that to say, I was looking at doing my own modeling for and these are all off-axis responses because it's, you know, a certain width of the dome. Well, this was a 3 1-inch domes on an 11-inch diameter. Oh yeah, I had this was 3 domes in a little array, and so you can see that off-axis response has a dip in it versus the single dome. had a dip, but it actually pretty uniform. But anyway, so I was trying to figure out, well, if I could calculate the baffle response, then I could actually, do some optimization on it. So I've been kind of looking at doing that. Come up with the best shape for the baffle. But anyway, yeah, so I was playing around. There's all these things you can do where you say you have a square baffle. Well, if you put the driver in the center, then all the edge diffraction happens at the same frequency and you get a ripples in the response. And so then you say, well, what if I move it over so that it's off center, and you can make it so the ripples from one side are boosting at the same frequency the other side because it's longer, it's cutting, and so you can kind of get these ripples to overlay so that they cancel. So I was playing around with a little bit of that. How's that for a long answer to a short question?
Good.
But so yeah, hopefully this week I'll get out in the garage since I can and get the router out and cut some round holes. All I need is a piece of wood with 2 round holes in it, and the speaker's done. So, yeah. Hey, Renan, so were you gonna tell us
Yeah,
about
yes.
your
So
good?
I will.
Yeah.
So I found. Oops. Whoops. So I found a way of being able to stream your own music from the cloud for free, where it doesn't cost you anything, and it's relatively easy to do. And you can listen to the music either on your phone or any other device that lets you stream stuff. So I'm sure others have thought this through too. The reason I decided to do this is because whenever you try to listen to music online, either on your phone or through some streaming device, it's usually not at its normal full resolution. It's compressed MP3. And I thought, if I've got my whole music collection here at home, sitting on a server, why can't I listen to that in the car or at the office, on my phone, for example, wherever I am, at least at the resolution at which I recorded at, which are FLAC files or WAV files at 1644. So in order to do that, I copied, first of all, I got a free account on Google Drive. Google Drive is a cloud-based service. You can go and sign up, and they give you, I think they give you 150 gigabytes. I forget the exact amount. It's not a lot, or is it 50 gigabytes? 50 gigabytes of space. You can always buy more space if you want, but for free you get 50. That gives you the ability to put about 150 tracks of music of your own on there, files on there. So with Google Drive, I just copied my FLAC files from my server over to Google Drive. Just drag them into the browser onto Google Drive. When you open Google Drive on the browser, you can just go to your server and drag the files over and just uploads them to Google Drive. And then to play them, I used an app I found, very good one for the iPhone. Here it is. It's called Cloud Beats. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not, but anyway. Yeah, you can't really see that. It's shining too brightly. Anyway, it's an app called Cloud Beats, Beats. It's free, and all you have to do is to tell it you want to play your files from Google Drive. Next thing you know, you get to see them all lined up on the iPhone with the little album covers and the whole bit. And you just hit play, and off you go. And now you're listening to your own music directly from Google Drive in the cloud. And so I thought that was nice because in the past I mean, its quality is much better than if you would just listen to it from iTunes or whatever, Spotify or any other place like that, or YouTube or whatever. It's much better to have your own stuff. So anyway, 150 tracks, so you can always remove ones that you're tired of listening to and put another 150 on there if you want, or just buy more space on it on Google Drive. So, and the whole thing just took a few minutes to do, and there we go. So I thought I'd mention that for anyone who wanted to play their own music. It's a nice way to stream your own stuff. And that way, even if you have high resolution stuff, you can put up there and stream it. So you don't have to worry about paying Tidal, a fee, or Rune, or anybody else. You can just have your own. And it streams perfectly well. I mean, it's not an issue, you know, so long as you have a decent internet connection to your phone or other device, it's going to play quite nicely.
Would you put that in an email?
Yeah, I'll put it in email. Yeah, but just
great. I would really like to have that.
Yeah. So only two things to remember: Google Drive, and then Cloud Beats are the two items, and that's it. The rest is just copying files over.
Cool.
And playing them. Yeah. I mean, it would be nice if I could, you know, have you see this and play some stuff. But well, I could play a little piece. Let's see. Hold on a second while it starts up.
And so that way you can do that when you're at work and or anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even have to align your phono cartridge.
Yeah. That's
Anyway, that was Bach Flute Sonata in E minor.
nice.
Anyway, it's a wonderful recording with Angela Hewitt on piano, and forget who the flute player is. But anyway, yeah, it's great to be able to just hear your own stuff. I mean, of course, you want to hear other things you've not heard before. That's a different story. But at the very least, you should be able to hear your own things well. And I can play this in my car, you know, just plug it into the auxiliary input in the car, and sounds pretty halfway decent because it's streaming 1644.
Wow.
It's sort of like playing a CD in the car, same idea.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Hey, so you, I don't know if you have
two computers.
Sorry.
Fortunately, I've got two computers here, so on my other one, I went to it. It's cool. Yeah.
So you
That's
also
pretty
did some
neat.
speaker cables a while back.
Oh yeah, speaker cables, right. So I was looking for speaker cables just for fun to see if I could find something with a silver coating, you know, copper with silver. It's usually quite expensive. Anyway, I wound up reading a review of this particular company. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, True Colors Industries.
True Colors Industry, and it's called the Storm. And they're out of Ireland, I believe. They make their own cables, and it comes in bulk. It's a flat cable, and they can terminate it for you however you want. And it got a superb review in one of the British hi-fi magazines. And I thought, let me write to them and ask them what it costs. And it turned out to be extremely reasonable for as speaker cables go with silver. So 15 feet a pair, 15-foot pair for this room, where we listen to music, was $200 for the pair, which I thought was quite fairly reasonable. And it was okay to give it a shot and see what it sounded like. So I ordered it from a company called Kronos AV. It's not easily found here in the US. So this is a company in Ireland, Kronos AV. And I can write that down in an email. But anyway, I talked to them and they said, sure, we can do it. So they sent it, I tried it out. I tell you, it sounds excellent. I have replaced my current cables with this set. Without any real issues with it. It's very, very well designed. They're flat, they're easy to, bend and so forth, and lightweight and very reasonable. So I thought that was a pretty good find. I thought I'd mention that if anybody's interested. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's nice. So you don't have to fight with the solid core wire anymore.
No, you don't. I don't. It's pretty flexible, and yeah. I mean,
Why do you want silver coated?
I just wanted to see. I've never had silver coated. I wanted to see if it made any difference at all to this pure copper that I had. It's solid copper core, and it does. I mean, it makes a slight difference. I like the sound of the high frequencies. They're a little bit clearer.
What were you using before, Renan?
I was using Anti-Cable, the company out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
That produces solid core copper, so it's pretty stiff. And I've been using them for years, and they're very reasonable too, by the way. They are extremely reasonable, but their cables sound fantastic. And I never thought I would sort of really replace those. I didn't have any reason to either. But then I just saw this in a review of this TCI cable. And I thought, well, let's just see what the cost. I've always been intrigued about, whether the silver is going to make any difference. And it does make a slight difference. I don't know. It just does.
I've always gone with oxygen-free copper.
Yeah, so it's oxygen-free copper, but with a silver coating that runs along the outside of it, on the edge.
Yeah. Can I share a little secret with all you guys?
Yeah.
Any copper that you buy in the United States, Japan, or in Canada, it's all oxygen-free.
Really?
If you want oxygen in your cables, you got to pay extra.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The oxygen's going to be on the outside. So.
Yeah.
You always get, hopefully you have that.
Yeah, these days we all have smoked copper cable, but yeah.
Anyway, if anybody wants to try these, they're welcome to. It's pretty nice and reasonable. So
yeah.
It wasn't a failed experiment. I've done experiments like this before where they failed. This one is to keep. So I just thought I'd mention that. At least to my ears, it sounds very good.
You just mentioned solid versus stranded. Any comments there?
I don't, Ian. Well, all I can say is that the anti-cable solid core just sounds right. But that doesn't mean the stranded doesn't either. For example, I've had stranded cable here and it sounded very good, but very expensive. So, and the only reason I switched to anti-cable, not because I thought it was solid core or anything like that. I just switched because it was cheap. So I sold my transparent speaker cables, which were phenomenally expensive. Not, I mean, not stratospheric, but expensive. I just sold them and kept the anti-cable, which was whatever, $120 or $200 for 15 feet. They're again very reasonable and sounded just as good as the ones from Transparent, if not better. So I don't know what to say. Both are good. I just happen to like the solid core because it happened to be cheaper. That's about the only reason I stuck with them for so many years. I mean, I still have them, and they still make them in Minnesota, and they're still very reasonable in cost. Very reasonable. And you could try them out, and if you don't like them, you could send them back. So I thoroughly advocate for them if anybody was interested in a good copper cable. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
But they also make interconnects and stuff, but I haven't gone into that interconnect stuff of theirs. I just stuck with what I have. Yeah. So yeah, anybody who wants to try streaming, to their phone, that's a cheap and effective way to do it, and doesn't take up much of your time at all, because you've already got your files on a server somewhere. You might as well just copy some of them out to your own free cloud drive and play them from there. I'm sure you can't really lose on that.
Yeah, that's great.
It's kind of nice to know about that, because playing things directly from Google Drive is nothing special.
Right.
So having something that can run it off and do it well, that's a good thing.
There's several programs that can run your files from cloud drives, and I've tried about 12 of them, different apps, but I like this Cloud Beats the best. It seems to do the most consistent job, and gives you images of the album covers.
Oh, wow.
And that sort of thing, and the track length, and just the information you would like to have when you're playing your own music at home. So it's pretty nice that they do that, and a nice interface, easy to use, nothing to it really. So yeah. And again, it's free. I don't know how they do this. There are no ads, so it's free. I'm not really sure how they can afford to do that, but whatever.
Well, they're taking your music and selling it. Yeah.
Then they drain your brain.
They're probably selling your what kind of music you like to somebody else that can put it into an algorithm and figure out what kind of cookies you want to buy or something.
They're just selling all the other documents you have on your Google Drive.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. I set up an account on Google Drive only for the music. I didn't put anything else there, like documents or any stuff I'd want to keep secure. So it's just my FLAC files, and that's it. You can also create another account for all the other stuff that you want to put on another Google Drive. That's fine. But this is just strictly for music. Anyway, that's all I have.
So I'm not sure how we're supposed to get in line, but I actually have something to show this time. So if
yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, before I show it, I wanted to mention that with Dana, when you were going through that Arta stuff, that brought back some real memories, because when I was working on the big speaker system, I went through all that stuff. And the thing is that I'm, as mainly a Mac person, I had to try to resuscitate an ancient laptop to get things working with a Windows world. So that was in 2004, and that laptop was ancient at that time. And I just was shuddering when I thought about what would I have to do to get Arta working again. I say, hey, honey, I think I need another computer. Is going to go over really well. Anyway, cross that bridge when I come to it. But I noticed that Arta screen looked very familiar. It looks like it hasn't changed a lot. Even the operating systems have. So the project that's been on my burner for a long time is to do some nice crossovers for the big speaker system. And I had managed to gather parts, and then I was going to have to build a box and to make things that cosmetically matched the big speakers. And then I finally got in to the shop where the guy who has the shop where I did that kind of construction just before we all got shut down for the pandemic.
Wow.
And I was up to my eyeballs for the next few months trying to get through the online worship and online school year stuff, so I couldn't really work on anything until finally got a little bit free. So now the box, as you imagine, is kind of big, and the box fits doesn't. The boards are separate from the box so far. That's I'm still working on the boards, and we'll put it all together. But the box fits behind the upper box, and it just makes it so that it makes a complete rectangular solid out of the whole mass, and just completes the empty space. But it's a kind of a back. Well, I'll show you. Okay, so this is the. This would be the outside, the back panel. This would be the bottom because it just sits on top. It's bottomless by itself, and it's also freaking heavy.
Wow.
So now there's a little place for a board on the left and on the right side. And then the place in the middle will be where all the binding posts go that bring things out, because this contains the crossovers for the woofer, which it's sitting right behind the box with the woofer, and then the compression driver, which will sit above, and the ribbon tweeter, which sits above. And so it's got to have outputs for all those different things. Now, here's a high frequency board. This one is all wired.
Holy smokes.
So these are, I kind of got to like the Jupiter condenser capacitors. And so my, it's basically the 3 parallel caps to get my 4 microfarads in. And then this is Dave Slagle made this nickel core inductor. So that's the CL, and then C, I needed 20 microfarads here. And so that's an 8 and a 12 here. And then on the output side of that, this is the Dave Slagle autoformer that I do for my step down. And then there's it has a resistor that goes across it that kind of terminates its impedance and makes everything at the right value. Yeah. And then these up here, this little tiny pair of capacitors and inductor are the ones for the ribbon tweeter. So I just need to do the mount that on one side of the box, and then add the terminals and the wiring to the right places. Oh, and by the way, the wire that I'm using for this, if you see the black wires, this is that Duland 16 gauge stuff that has the cotton insulation, and it's actually tinned copper, and I wanted to try that because it's it doesn't oxidize, and it's modeled after, it's kind of a copy of an old Western Electric wire that the people were into that like, and I kind of enjoy those, so I thought I'd try that. Now the low frequency one has some, that's the one that has the big capacitors. So these are about the size of a beer can for each one. And so we have the input inductor, and then the 30 microfarads of Jupiter caps, and then the output inductor, and then this is the, that would be the Zobel right there, a little Russian oil capacitor and a Dale. So, so anyway, by next meeting, I'm hoping that I have these the rest of the way wired and mounted in there, and it's been making pretty tunes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about your crossover?
Yep.
Yeah, those capacitors, do you have a bleed resistor on those?
No?
You do, you don't?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I've never heard of bleed resistors being used in a crossover. I'd usually associate that with like a power supply where there's something needed to take down the high voltage. But
Right.
you know, there's no voltages here that are any different than would be in any crossover. These capacitors are big, not because they're not high voltage even. They're only 100-volt capacitors, but it's because Jupiter Condenser, his philosophy is to use paper and beeswax and then foils instead of metallized polypropylene or something.
Right.
And the thing with these capacitors, I had oh God, it was quite a while when they first came out, but I had not been paying any attention to them at first. But then Lynn Olson and I were at an audio hobbyist event in San Francisco, and Chris Young, who makes these, had a bunch of those. Jack Eliano, the Electroprint guy, had a little table set up with a whole junk shop full of every kind of capacitor there. And he had a signal generator, and this little demo that he was doing was that if you took any kind of capacitor and you hooked it up to the output of the signal generator and you play it, you could hear the capacitor sing. And they all kind of sang with, you know, with the sound of the signal generator, and they all did to a various extent, right? And they all had, you know, different sounds. And then you'd look for a capacitor you thought was going to be quieter and whatever. And then all the Jupiters, just it was dead silent. And I thought, well, this is interesting. It'd be different anyway. Well, I used to use the Ariel speaker, and there was only one main capacitor in the high frequency section for the Ariel. And so it took a 4.7 mic, and I got a couple of those. And I have been using, I think, Hovland music caps in my original crossovers. And I was up at Lynn Olson's place back when he lived in Silverdale on his Ariels, and I brought my crossover, and it was set up so that we could hear hear them switched in, and we were really used to the sound of that, but it was so jaw-droppingly more natural, like real instruments. I remember the harpsichord recording with lower strings that we were listening to, and it was just so gorgeous. And we just, Karna actually came in from the kitchen, and she said, "What did you do?" So anyway, I kind of written off the idea of doing Jupiter condensers with the big speaker setup, because for one thing, I got a million capacitors. The capacitors had gone way, way up in price, and they're ridiculous expensive and everything. But after I'd really kind of settled on what my crossover was, then I kept thinking, well, I could replace a couple of the important ones with it and see if they make any difference in this circuit. And then I ended up having a phone conversation with Chris Young, and he said, "Oh, I got all kinds of stuff around here." And he actually kind of lured me further down into the rabbit hole, and then I ended up with a big box and of what I needed. So, you know, why not? You only live once. So it can't sound any worse than the other crossover, though, believe me.
Okay.
Yeah, you can leave paying it for your relatives after you go, right? Then they can pay off your capacitor.
At least my wife knows where I am all the time.
My question is, what kind of wattage do you have to put into a capacitor to hear it sing?
Well, I don't want to hear it sing, And I wondered, yes, I actually wondered on that demo what on earth how they had that set up. And it didn't matter because it was the same setup for all of them. I could see that something was happening, and there's something about the way the wax impregnation just, was holding everything stable. And I understand that that's a significant part of the way capacitors are going to perform in an audio circuit. I also understand that the different dielectrics sound different. And you notice when I was liking to use the cotton dielectric on the wire and the paper dielectric or the paper in the capacitors, the beeswax, that's something that I've come to appreciate, and I will definitely, since the previous ones have been all full of metallized polypropylene and that kind of stuff, then we'll hear what it sounds like.
Nice.
Meanwhile, it looks better than the old one.
It's a shame you have to hide it in that big box.
I know, right?
You have to put some windows in there and some lighting.
Well, the old things were, some of you guys saw them. It was all this raw parts sitting out on a piece of plywood, looking about as ridiculous as anything could. And it was fine for a prototype, but I kind of wanted to have it finished off.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe like this. Yeah, there you go. That's
Well, that looks nice.
That was my for my LS. That was the prototype for the LS35A. But yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
Why don't you put a plexiglass dark cover over the top of your crossover, and then have a toggle switch where you can light it up. That
espresso machine of mine, with the pump,
yeah,
with a hand lever. When they first started making those, they made a version of it that had plexiglass side panels and had illumination from within, and so you could see all the gleaming pipework and everything. One of the problems with that, though, is that they only look like that for the first year you're using them. That stuff doesn't stay beautiful forever.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you're telling me a capacitor like this isn't any good.
Well, that's what my prototype had, all kinds of those.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm going to have to figure out if I can make my capacitors sing, see how many volts I have to put into them.
Right.
If they use too much vibrato, then you're in real trouble.
There you go.
Well, this one, what I just showed you is rated at 200 volts. I bet if you put 400 on it, you could make it sing, or maybe 1,000.
Briefly. I think you call it screaming at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
With enough volts, you'll get an amazing show.
I think in a speaker crossover, you're looking
also
at fairly high current.
Oh, Renee?
Yeah. I think in a speaker crossover, this does make a difference because you're looking at a fair amount of current flowing through the capacitor in a speaker because of the low impedance. I mean, you're looking at amperes at times. Whereas in a signal, in a low-level signal, it probably doesn't make so much difference. But I do agree there is a difference in capacitors. I just put 4 capacitors into a Jack Eliano built single-ended amp for a friend, and I think he paid about close to $200 to $300 for those 4 capacitors. they're the ODEMs. I mean, this is some special film capacitor, and Sean Archer has been experimenting with what I call pricey capacitors. He put a lot of Mundorfs and Duelins and so on into the crossover, and finally he came to me and said, "These are the best I've heard." I went and looked online and I said, "Holy crap, I'm sure they're good." When you're spending $50 to $75 for a capacitor, small capacitor, 0.1 and 0.22 mics.
Oh, geez.
I know. So it's a serious investment. But I'm waiting to hear from him to find out if it made any difference.
Well,
if it sounds any better.
I'm certainly hoping that it does, but you know, I wouldn't have bothered with such a thing like that if I hadn't been through that with the aerials. I mean, it wasn't anything you had to strain to pick up. It was not subtle, and it was something that was worthwhile to me. So, you know, I don't care if anybody else doesn't want to go that route, but that was for me.
Hey, Gary,
Yeah.
that crossover, did you have that at the VSAC hooked up?
The crossover circuit that VSAC.
Yeah, probably the second one.
You're talking about back in the bottlehead VSAC.
Yeah,
thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah. It was actually I think no, that was never at the VSAC with the Jupiter condensers, because the very last VSAC, I think that was the same week, as a matter of fact, that I got the Jupiters up and running in the first place, up at Lynn's place. And I think it was just after the VSAC was ending. But who was that German guy who was doing the differential amplifiers that was a special guest at that end? Renee, remember who I'm talking about?
I do. I'm trying to remember his name. Yes, right.
It's just on the tip of my tongue. Alan Wright, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was, yeah.
Alan Wright was there, and I think he was, because he stayed for a few days after the VSAC was over, and he was there at the same time, and we had his amps, and I don't think Lynn's big new amps were done yet, but anyway, we all had the same reaction.
He died right after that, didn't he?
It wasn't long.
It was, I mean, like 3 weeks or a month after VSAC, didn't he pass away?
Wow.
I don't remember. I didn't see him another time after that, but I think we had some communication.
Yeah.
But yeah, quite a loss. He was a pretty colorful person. Had a lot of interesting ideas and a lot of unique things that he was putting out. And we had. I'd met him in the first place when Lynn and I went to the European Triode Festival in, I think that was around the same year. A lot of things happened in early 2000s, but we went to Langenargen, Germany. It was in December, and it was totally weird for me to actually get out right in the heart of when everything's happening at church, school, and symphony. I'm going on a 1-week vacation and using up my accumulated leave right while everything is going on. It was amazing, but but Alan Wright and some of the real famous audio personalities from the DIY stuff of the world. Jean-Michel Lecliche was there. Who's that French? Hiraga. Jean Hiraga was there. I mean, you know, it was really cool to meet these people. But Lynn was a special guest speaker, which is why I got to go. It's you have to be invited, and he arranged that. Fun times, but I haven't been back.
Wow.
I have a question, not audio related. Has anybody ever had to replace a water main?
A watermelon?
A water main.
A water main.
My water
main.
main feed has a leak, apparently.
Oh, well, so I have done it a couple times. So one time I was able to just dig a hole, find the leak, and patch it. And you can usually get away with patching it a couple times before you have to replace it. And it only costs maybe, you know, I don't know, $400 or $500 to get somebody to come out and dig the hole and patch it. They just go and cut a little section out and slide a little connector on it, because it's usually they're plastic pipes these days. And so they just get a little thing with some gaskets on it, and it slides over the, it just connects the two ends after they cut where the leak is.
Mm-hmm. So how do they find where the leak is?
Well, so I was able to do it just by looking at where the water was coming out of my lawn.
Oh, well.
I just started digging.
Yeah, this is a slow leak. Nothing's
Ah.
obvious.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much is it costing you, Renee? How much per month?
I don't know yet.
Oh, you haven't. Well, how do you know it's leaking?
Because you can tell if you look at the water meter.
It's still spinning and you don't have anything on.
There's a very, yes, there's a little dial that's very sensitive.
Right.
And they say it takes, they say 13 minutes to rotate once for 1 gallon of flow. So,
Wow.
Anyway, so the water company actually notified me. They said, we think you might have a leak. Well, we use so many. Of course, the big problem is, at first I didn't think anything of it because we did a lot of watering this summer. So how did they know? But apparently, we went out and looked, cleaned up the meter and looked at it, and sure enough, with the main house shut off at the foundation here, you could still see this little thing creeping along, right? So it's a very slow leak, probably
How far?
a gallon an hour or something like that, so you can calculate what it'll cost.
How
long
far
a run
is it from the?
How long do you have from your meter to your house?
Oh,
Yeah, like
100 feet, 75 to 100 feet.
Okay. What I did was I hired a company that comes out and does leak detection, and they were able to locate it. And so once you know where it is, then you can address it.
Fine. And what do they charge to do that?
Oh, I think it was less than $100.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably worth doing.
And then I've forgotten the machine that they finally used to replace the line, but they didn't dig up the whole thing. I've forgotten what the name of it's called. Anyway, what they do is they have a machine that can actually drive a rod through the ground underground, and they have a little head that can sense where it is, and they can make it go left, right, up and down, and so they can make it go exactly where they want it to go.
I've seen one of those. The neighbor did it for his to replace his CATV line. It's a little mole, and they dig a little pit, and then they put this thing in, and it just drives itself under the ground. It's attached to a cable. It's amazing. So you don't have to, because that's what I'm going to need, because my line runs under some shrubbery that I don't want to dig up. So probably for me the best thing.
That turned out to be the least costly way of doing it also. So
you remember the company that did that?
I'll look it up for you.
Right.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they send that thing through, and then they can just pull a new line.
Right.
They attach the pipe to it. I use copper, and they just pulled a new one in.
Right.
It was pretty quick. They did the whole job in less than 4 hours.
Yeah.
wow.
Okay.
And my run was about 40 feet. No, it was longer than that. It was about 60 feet altogether.
Oh, good. Thanks. Anyway, we'll see. I'll let you know if the saga continues. I have another interesting thing to talk about. Did any of you, I think some of you attended our Pacific Northwest Audio Society meeting back on the 5th with Island Hi-Fi.
Yeah.
Well, one of the interesting things that came up, I don't know if anybody's been playing around with grounding their systems, but one of the things that was mentioned is that, of course, you want to, your incoming service is always grounded at the, as it enters the house. They drive a ground rod, okay? But it was pointed out that sometimes those deteriorate. So, and then somebody suggested, well, maybe, if you could just use your water pipe, okay? And you do not want to do that, because if there's any current flowing, you will have electrolysis, and pretty soon your water pipe will disappear. just like your ground rod did. So it's always best to use a separate ground rod that you can keep track of, not your water main.
So,
if
Renee,
you,
what was the suggestion made that you're saying is, I didn't really get the detail about what was the suggestion made you're saying is not a good idea? And I know it involved the water pipe and grounding, but
yeah, if you needed a good, if you wanted to make sure you had a good safety ground on your incoming system, use the water pipe. But it's not a good idea.
Yeah, so don't take electrical advice from an audio store.
Right. Exactly.
No, you can get those rods, and what you do is you'll put a section up, and then you pound it into the ground with a sledgehammer.
Right.
And then you screw on the next link, and you can get 2 or 3 links depending on how deep you need to go. Of course,
right.
If you hit solid shelf of underground rock, then you're okay probably. But
well, if you want more surface area than just one, just drive 1 or 2 side by side, or 3 or 4 side by side.
Right.
Be a whole lot easier. You're not going to gain that much by having greater depth.
Well, there is, because you want to get down to the level where you have a good ground conductivity, good moisture retention in the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And the surface tends to dry out. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want it into regraded stuff. You want virgin soil.
Right. Yeah.
But those ground rods are usually about 10 feet long.
Right. That does it, usually.
Yeah, one other thing you can do is once you get that in, pound it in, and you get it hooked up, is to take some salt water and pour it all the way around the rod. And the guy that told me about that, he used to set up antennas for the Army. And that was one of the things that they did to make sure you get an even better ground, is to pour salt water all the way around it, and pretty stiff salt water too.
They probably didn't expect the ground rod to last very long in those particular situations. Though, when you're in a war, it's usually
you're on the move.
Get out of here.
Well, yeah, salt the earth is the last. Yeah, salt the earth is the last step of war, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think if you want the ground rod to last very long, you pour salt on it.
Well, unless it's made of platinum or something like that.
Right, there you go.
Something fairly non-reactive.
Ooh, so now maybe we've got a business opportunity here,
Platinum
Renee.
ground rods.
Yeah, we can have gold or platinum audiophile ground rods.
Yeah, if you've got really bad soil, you have to lay out a pattern of those things and hook them together.
Right.
If you've got real loose sandy soil or something like that, yeah.
Or just drive it into the in the incoming water main.
Yeah.
Preferably someone else.
Well, unless you're in Kirkland, because the incoming water mains in Kirkland are made of, oh my gosh, what is it? Asbestos.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, they're not going to burn.
No, they are not going to catch fire.
that's been a real problem. Yeah.
Does that make them Vbestus?
Yeah, well, that's what they told me. Yeah, but the water main in front of my house is made of asbestos, and apparently that is the case throughout most of Kirkland. And the beauty of it is you can't locate them using any of the normal means magnetically.
Really?
So if you wonder why they dig such big holes when they attach to the water main in Kirkland, it's because they have no idea where the pipe is.
Just ask the environmental attorney. They know where all the asbestos is.
Yeah.
That would be true also of the Schedule 10 PVC pipe, right? I mean, the only thing you've got is the water itself.
Right.
But it's, I thought they could detect the water. That's how they find the leak in my lawn. Is, I mean, I have a PVC pipe in there.
Right.
All
Well,
it is are-
Yeah, well, it turns out they came out to connect my house to the water main because it wasn't. It was connected to my neighbor's connection.
Oh,
And so when I informed them of that, they said, oh. But yeah, they came out and they said
told them.
they couldn't find it. And then she brought out the divining rods.
Yeah.
So the Kirkland Water Department in their truck has divining rods.
That's what I figured we'd use.
To
Yeah,
try
we've
and
used
find.
them.
And so they very carefully located precisely where they thought it was with the divining rod. They dug a hole, and it wasn't there. Of course, it wasn't there.
Well, actually, that really works.
No, it doesn't. It really does not work.
No, it really,
It works.
if you know what you're doing.
Well,
I took 10 people. I knew where I owned a commercial building. I took 10 employees. A native Indian taught me how to wish for water. And
Yeah.
so I took 10 employees out, and you've got to do it right. But I lined up 10 people and had them walk across the parking lot, and 7 out of the 10 identified exactly where the line, where the incoming water main was, without my telling them what they were doing at all.
It's true.
Well, if you can write up the scientific paper, you'll be there's a Nobel Prize waiting for you because no one's ever been able to prove it works.
It's not scientific, just like the sound of wires and all that sort of stuff. It's not. There's no scientific proof. It's just what we hear. Right? So, nevertheless, I get.
So, Howard, have you been doing anything on your speakers?
Yeah, I have. I wanted to say one thing to. Wanted to say one thing to Renee about the water line. I have dealt with water line problems too, and if you wait until the true rainy season, if you had any desire to suss out yourself where the leak is, it would be difficult to do when the ground is saturated. But at least at my house, the ground is, even with the current rain, it's probably only wet an inch or two down. So if you were going to use a shovel to kind of probe yourself, go down 6 inches or something like that, if you have enough of a leak, there might be a wet spot, and everywhere else would be dry. But if you wait until, November, you're out of luck. So that's the one thing about that.
Yeah, you might just see a green spot in your lawn.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
Renee, the machine that puts in the water line is called a ditch witch.
Ditch witch.
DITCH. WITCH.
Right.
That's what. Yeah, I just remembered it.
Thank you. That's right.
So,
I've heard the name. Right. Ditch witch.
A ditch witch. Typically, I mean, I think there's a brand name of that, but it's typically a thing that digs a trench rather than the thing that does it underground. Although maybe Ditch Witch brand also has the thing that goes underground. But if you call up the rental yard and say, "Do you have a Ditch Witch?" what they're usually talking about is this
right. It's like a chainsaw
track with these big diggers on it, and it runs along and digs a hole.
Okay, I think we're looking for a mole, not a witch.
There you go.
A mole, not a witch. Ditch mole, but we'll have to see. Anyway, right. The question is, which witch has the ditch witch? Well, I don't know.
So I have been buying things. I haven't built much lately. Got a few things to share. I think I will once again show my baffle that I made a month or two ago. That's the newest version of my surfboard baffle, and that'll give some context to where some of these drivers will go.
Sorry, everybody, I gotta go. Nice seeing you.
Okay, Dave.
Thanks for joining us, Dave. Good seeing you.
Yep. Have a good one.
So this,
Yeah, it's the ditch witch is called an underground boring machine.
this is the most current surfboard baffle. I have a horn-loaded dome tweeter here. Right now, it's a Fostex 126 here. Really old JBL D. It's actually a D216 rather than a D208. Same driver, but different voice coil. Bozak 12-inch, and then a currently made Fatale 10-inch, kind of inexpensive Fatale that is got the right cue for open baffle. But this one is actually in a box. This is not. That's not. So all this is open baffle up here, and to be. For the longest time, I had all of this wired as one crossover section, and then my revelation came recently. It's much better for baffle step and everything else, and for multiple amplifiers if these three drivers were on one circuit, and then these two were on another, and then there was a third. It was actually a subwoofer. Another woofer that's actually a subwoofer. Which brings me to the woofer that I bought is not actually sold by SB as a subwoofer, but I thought it would do what I wanted to do the best, and it was on sale, which helped me, which I liked. And this one is, they have a whole lot of different like 8-inch woofers and stuff, but this is an SB23 NRX S45, and this is a 4-ohm. I guess they weren't selling fast enough at Matasound, so they dropped them by $23 or something like that. So this was $69, and it's beautiful cast frame, really nicely made driver, gold-plated contacts on either side. FS of 27 hertz, handles 60 watts. At the 4-ohm rating, this one's supposed to be 92 dB or 91 dB or something. So the other woofer I was considering was SB subwoofer that uses actually a smaller box, but it's less sensitive. And so any chance of ever using these with that woofer, doing the surfboard with the 8-inch subwoofer, and not having a separate amplifier was kind of out the door. It just wasn't going to work, being, a whole lot less sensitive. So, anyway, I think I had a different idea. I had the idea of running this in the same volume as the 10-inch Fatale, and I've been doing that with a different woofer. But I think it's making some distortion in the Fatale. I think it's pushing it too hard or something. I don't know. Maybe it's pushing it past its X max or something. So this is going to be in its own box with its own amplifier, and it's going to be a sub-amp. So, it's going to cross over at 50 hertz or 60 hertz or something like that. So this is a pretty nice driver. I measured it. I think I wouldn't want to make a two-way out of it. And it's just that not kind of, the cone on the surface looks like it's poly or something, but it's supposed to be paper cone. But I think it'll do really nice in the bass. So that's one piece to show and tell. This piece on a whole other, it's actually on a different project. Oh, is Renan still around? Yeah, well, his picture's there. Maybe I'll wait and see if he comes back. Because he asked about the subwoofer I was talking about. Well, I'll show you that so that I have some context. This 3 cubic foot thing.
Wow.
is a mass-loaded transmission line. And the driver that's in it right now is a JBL from the 70s, like a JBL LE10A Alnico. The thing about mass-loaded transmission line, they like a driver that's somewhere like 0.4, kind of either side of 0.4 somewhere, QTS. And
What is the mass?
I'm sorry?
What is the mass?
MASK, like mask?
No, what is the mass? Mass loaded.
Oh, mass load. Why do they call it mass loaded transmission line? I think it's very similar to what actually a port in a base reflex does. I think what it is that it's a, I don't even know base reflex.
I think it might refer to the mass of the air in the port tube at the end of it. So it's got a transmission line with a port tube at the end instead of just an opening.
So essentially, it can be shorter than an equivalent transmission line where the line just opens up at full width to the room. It's a restricted opening. It's like a port. It's smaller, and so the line length can get smaller, and the designs are they're kind of like a base reflex that uses standing waves. And one of their better things is that you can often tune the system to the free air resonance of the driver, or with some drivers, I think they probably the ones that are a little bit higher Q, like getting up towards 0.5, you can actually tune them like third to almost a half of octave, probably third of an octave lower than the FS of the driver. And then,
Howard, they didn't really start doing that until they had small parameters nailed pretty good. I remember, before then it was really kind of a guess and by golly. And after that, they could just almost pinpoint the different specs that they needed. And that's when it really came into being.
Okay, right. Well, I think Martin King is one of the gurus of that, and he's written some software that I don't own, and it's expressly for DIY. He gets really sore. I mean, I once wrote to him and I said something, well, maybe and this was like 10 years ago, I said something about, well, maybe I'll be able to build these and stuff. And he was building them and sell them, and he was just like, really reactive to that. So I don't know what all has happened with that over the years. But so in a smaller box than a traditional transmission line, you can make something that performs similarly, is the kind of thing. And like this driver in its normal base reflex box, like the JBL would put it in, well, actually they used a passive radiator, but they also have a port in their old DIY manuals. They had a port size designation, and it was between like 1.5 and 2 cubic feet was the kind of recommended. And you could go bigger. You could actually put this woofer in a much bigger box. But it would go down to 50 or 60 hertz and then start to roll off pretty good. And this thing just really has a really, to me, satisfying, deep, easy, 30 hertz, and with a tone generator, there's 25 hertz there, but it's I think it would get lost pretty easily under the rest of the music. So all of that leads into, I had wanted to try this driver, which is a Dayton Audio. It's in their DVC series, dual voice coil. They're inexpensive woofers. This one is normally $41 or something, $42 something, $39. I don't know. It was on sale for $31, and I was going to get a discount if I went over a certain amount. So I bought it, and it has, I haven't tried it in that box yet, but it has about the right Q for that type of a setup. And so I'm thinking it would be very cool. I mean, maybe not for any of us especially, but cool conceptually to think that for a $40 woofer in a homemade box, and then a couple of satellites made out of whatever you want to make them out of, you could have this in pretty amazing sound. A good, you know, they have to be amazing sounding satellites, but maybe something like a Lynn Olson's Ariels, but not in the full transmission line, something like that, like a nice MTM made out of nice drivers. And then one of these for very little money, you could have pretty killer sounding system.
Howard?
Yeah.
Another thing on those dual voice coil woofers, an idea I had, I don't know, 25 years ago or so, was to put a potentiometer on one of those coils.
Okay.
And then you can vary the Q.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And it's adjustable, and you can, you know, it makes it pretty good. That was kind of the reasoning behind the first subwoofer that came out here, and I suggested that. It was kind of a group thing, and they incorporated it, and it worked very well.
So you put you changed the resistance on one of the coils and not the other one?
Well, one of them is the active circuit. That's bringing in the signal from your amplifier.
Okay.
The other one is to adjust the Q.
You just put a shunt across the terminals, and then you can vary that resistance.
Yeah, you're using the second voice coil
okay.
to actually control it, and it works. And Dan Wiggins and I, we collaborated on that, and it worked out pretty good.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun to try.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun to try. Let's see. So I've got other show and tell things. Here's one little something I got at a garage sale or a estate sale. A soldering gun from probably the mid '60s, something like that. And it's called a. I thought there was something about this being kind of a smaller one or something. Anyway, it works, and it was inexpensive, and it was fun. I like finding things like that.
I've got one just like it.
Yeah, me too.
I have a bigger version of that. It's just a little bit bigger, not much more power, but just a little larger size that I've had since I was 10 years old. It's, okay, so, and then I bought 4 of these. They're a ScanSpeak mid-range that is labeled with the name Ariel, but they're not Lynn Olson's Ariel. There's a audio company called Ariel,
yeah,
and they've been making high-end stuff for a long time. And these are new old stock 4-inch or 4.5-inch drivers, and kind of my excuse for buying them was I bought 4 of them, and I could use 2. They're 4 ohms. I could use 2 per side, along with these JBL 10-inch Pro mid-ranges that I have that run. Well, they have like an 80 hertz FS, but they basically for use from 200 hertz to, you know, a couple thousand if you want to go that high with them. And I was thinking about making open baffle, so using 2 of these for the upper mid-range, and then the JBLs for lower, and then having a woofer below that. And so that was my excuse for spending the money and getting them and whatever. Just open without a baffle. They sound like a high quality, well damped, but not overly damped mid-range speaker. But they don't sound as good as this newer design that's been out for about, 10 or 12 years. It's the fairly well-known, it's the Vifa or Peerless, I think. Timpani. What does it say on it? Yeah, actually, I think it's Timpani. Anyway, same company. Any 123W, and this is an 8 ohm. These are the ones I used in my contest winning speaker from 2018. And I listened this morning, I think it was, I was listening to two of these side by side, and they just got the cone composition and other things right about this driver, because whereas the ScanSpeak driver sounds like really kind of top quality traditional driver, it sounds like a top quality speaker, whereas this speaker just sounds like natural, real natural sounding.
Yep.
So it just has a very kind of natural, easy sound to vocals on it. So I thought that was an interesting comparison. And this one, it may help just on a bench listening kind of thing too, because this one has more extended high frequency, so that I might have been doing part of it. This one is really smooth response, and then rolls off above 5,000 hertz. So that's probably part of my impression, is the fact that you know, upper region of presence and treble just isn't there so much. And then this is pure show and tell. Parts Express had these double pole, double throw switches.
Oh yeah.
On sale, and if you bought 10 or more of them, they were like $1.52 each, and they're like 10 amp switches, pretty heavy duty. And I wanted switches for my a surfboard open baffle, because I want to be able to either run it tri-amp it, because the original idea behind it was to be able to use my SET amp and the JBL D216, and then whatever I used above that, to be able to go on SET and then have the other amp separate. Or I want to be able to pretty easily switch without a lot of jumpers and things to a version where you can power it with one amplifier. And so I really only needed half a dozen of these, but I bought a lot more than that. And I may die with a box full of little switches. Okay, I guess that's, one other thing. Okay, here's a good story. I don't know if any of you take advantage of or need, when you go to the dentist, extra chemical help to get through the experience, but I do. And when I left there, I was still kind of tipsy, and I'd had in the back of my mind to go to the fabric store for a long time and get some fabric to put on the 1960s style. Like I have a set of AR3 cabinets that I want to. And so I went in there and picked out this yardage, which ended up costing $38 a yard. And actually, after I got sober again, it actually still didn't look too bad. So, but I'm $38 poor too. So I think that's it, guys.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Howard. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Who else is still with us? But anybody else got something they want to talk about? We got, haven't heard from, I don't know. Hey, Tara, you been playing with any of your stuff, or is it all in a finished state?
No, it's all in boxes and stuff.
Yeah.
I got to do something about that. So.
Yeah.
And when things lighten up, maybe we can go out and try that gyrocopter thing.
Oh yeah.
Haven't done that yet. I've been waiting for you. So.
Man, yeah. Yeah, I got real brave.
Gifted fingers and stuff. So.
Yeah, I got real brave and walked around the block this morning. So that was my huge.
Whenever I do that, people throw stuff at me.
Oh yeah, you learn to dodge it. Yeah.
Yeah, as an Olsen, they're all jealous.
Yeah, they are. Man, well, I don't know. Let's see. We've been going a couple hours. I guess I don't know if anybody else has anything. If not, maybe we'll we'll call it. But oh, I was going to mention, I did watch if anybody has Netflix, there's a documentary called The Social Dilemma. And I highly recommend you watch it if you use any social media. They interviewed 3 or 4 of the people that created Facebook and all these different social media sites that are now sort of horrified at what they have become. But if you use any of that, I highly recommend you watch that that documentary. It's you know, it's kind of about the artificial intelligence, and you know, people were thinking, when, you know, would artificial intelligence eventually become capable of, you know,
Running Seattle.
acting like a human, right? And at that point, boy, you know, the singularity, we'd be at the singularity, and man, and then computers would take over the world. Well, it turns out that these social media sites, just due to their artificial intelligence optimization of the site, they're effectively just training people now to behave in certain ways. So it's a pretty, you know, between the dopamine rush you get, like you would in gambling, and this continuous optimization that they do towards a goal of just getting your time. And so it's interesting. So the side effects are civil wars, unfortunately. So I highly recommend you watch that if you want to understand what's happening in the world, and why people are acting.
Would you send me a link?
I certainly can. Yeah. Do you have Netflix?
No.
Yeah, it's only available on Netflix, unfortunately, but you can join Netflix for probably a month and watch it and cancel. But it's on the top 10 list on Netflix right now. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty much a must watch if you want to understand why politics, and help you understand why we'll have a civil war in the next 9 months.
What's the name of it again?
The Social Dilemma.
Okay.
So yeah, it's I'd say, yeah, anyway, it's very informative. It's interesting just to hear the whether you agree with the conclusions or not. It's very interesting to hear it directly from the mouths of the people who designed it. So these were people that have quit these companies, but were there when they were, you know, within the last couple of years, built a lot of these things. So it's interesting.
And the Civil War piece comes out of, and we're not talking about 1860 to 1865. We're talking about now, right? And the Civil War piece comes out of the fact that people are choosing these really narrow streams of quote facts that just support their own view of things, and they get more and more and more narrowed and entrenched. And there's everyone's not watching Walter Cronkite or whatever, and however shaded rosy of a view of things that was, at least everybody was kind of on the same page, but now everyone is on their own page with their own group. And so, and then, yeah, so that's the idea, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and they've already I think they've attributed Facebook to taking down 2 democracies already.
In what countries?
I can't remember the countries, but they talk about it in the documentary.
Okay.
So it's
smaller country somewhere.
Yeah, it's pretty horrifying. So yeah, yeah. So anyway, check that out.
You've got those you know, I think they usually pick out the name Proud Boys, and they go up against the Black Lives Matter or whatever like that.
Right.
But yeah, there is that kind of thing going on where you've got one group that feels righteous confronting another group that feels righteous, and the cops are standing back and say it's easier to let them fight than to have us do anything about it.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting. So anyway,
Yeah,
Just to
okay.
end on a happy note. Well, go outside, enjoy the clean air.
Great to see everyone again.
Yeah.
One
Take
quick
care.
question.
Take care.
If anybody,
All
if
right.
anybody has a,
Thanks for sharing.
Go ahead, Baron.
if anybody has a, I'm looking for an audio recorder software. If anybody has a suggestion there, appreciate it.
Oh,
What would you use? What kind of software would you use it for?
For audio recording on a computer.
Oh, on a computer, yeah.
oh, hmm.
Yeah.
You know, Renan is. I haven't seen his picture here recently, but he knows probably more about that. You know, Renan.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Okay.
Yeah, there's Pro Tools, things like that, or Odyssey. I'll send you a couple of suggestions, Baron.
It doesn't have to be super high quality.
Yeah,
I've
Yeah.
got to document some sounds.
got it.
Super. Great seeing you guys.
All right.
Okay.
Good
Thanks.
seeing you.
See y'all later.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye bye.